All right, so let's look at Jest. So Jest is a testing framework, and there's lots of testing frameworks out there, but Jest seems to work pretty well with the many of the more popular frameworks out there, such as React, Angular, Node, Vue, and it provides the testing capabilities, right, that allow us to do all these concepts that we've looked at before, right? It allows us to isolate the from a web service by providing a mocking capability. Allows us to render the DOM, right, programmatically from a test, and then validate and compare those the generated DOM compared to an expected DOM. It allows us to simulate users by generating all these events that would be handled by our components and our event handlers, and it works pretty well with the framework that we're using, which in this case is React. Right? So let's take a look at how is that we would use it. Now, if you have used the create React app to generate your React component, your React application, Jest is already pre-configured for you. Right? It's already installed. You don't have to do much. If it's not already in there, maybe this is a brand new component and you need to do create React app. You'll need to install it from scratch. And to install it, you'll use npm install Jest. So that is going to add the dependency. It's going to download the library and put it in your node_modules and add it as a dependency to your project. You can also download the command line interface, also called Jest, and install it as a global command line interface as well, which makes it very convenient to run the test from the command line. Okay. Just to see an example on how Jest works, let's look at a very trivial demo here. Here we have just a simple function, right? Where it takes two arguments and it just returns the summation of those two values, a plus b. Right? Notice that we're using the Node.js implementation of modules, of self-contained module code, and we're exposing this the sum function outside of this file. So this file is called sum.js. Yes? So anybody wants to use this function outside of the function, they can import, right? They can require this file, right? And then call the sum function from outside of this file, right? So that's a Node.js mechanism for implementing dependencies between different modules. Here from another file, this one called sum.test.js. Notice the naming convention. Right? This file is called sum.js, whereas this one is called the same, but it has a test in front of it. This creates a dependency between these two files. Right? This is the test file for that sum file over there. Right? The sum.js file. So here, notice the first line is that we are loading the function under tests. Right? We're going to test that function. We're going to verify that it works, right? That 2 plus 2 is indeed 4, right? So here we are using a function, a brand new function that is implemented by the Jest framework. Here it's called test, right? And this test function takes two arguments. The first argument is a label that identifies the name of the test, right? So that if something goes wrong, or we can notify you, which particular test failed. And typically, you would give it a descriptive name that what is the requirement, right? So a particular requirement would be captured here, perhaps as a functional requirement, right? And that functional requirement would be listed here as a string. The second argument is a function, and this function is the function that will be invoked whenever you run the tests, right? We'll call this function, and that function would typically consist of multiple except expect functions, right? Which basically are the equivalent of our assert functions in JUnit, right? We assert that this is true, right? And if it's not, then we want to be notified. Right? This is what we would expect the correct functionality of our application would be. We are expecting that if you add 1 plus 2, the answer will be 3. Right? That's our expectation. So the expect function, again, that's part of the implementation of jest. And it takes as argument a function which is going to execute it. It's going to run it. And whatever comes back, it's going to wrap it inside of a meta object. And that object, it has one of the functions of that object is to be. There's tons of functions. But one of the simpler ones is that it's going to say, okay, well, whatever that resulted, right, and I would expect that the result would be 3. Right? So this is a very simple comparison saying that whatever came back, compare it to 3. If it is, everything's good, the test passed. Right? And now there's tons of functions in here that allow you to compare not just integers, but allow you to compare Boolean expressions, nulls or undefined, compare arrays, compare objects, compare all sorts of fairly complex things, right? Strings, regular expressions, and whatnot. The simplest one is just validate whether it's just a simple number. Make sense? Right. So indeed, this passes. If you run it from the command line, you can run it by using npm run test. And what this will do is that it will find all the files that end with .test, right? It's going to find them all, and it's just going to execute all the functions that are called test in there, all the test functions that are in there. In this particular case, it's saying that I found this file called sum.test. I'm going to run it, right? And inside of that file, I found one test, and the name of that test was adds 1 plus 2 to equal 3, right? So it spits out the name of the test, puts a check mark saying that, yep, I validated it. It's true. 1 plus 2 is indeed 3. Plus, it shows a couple of statistics here based on how many tests they actually ran, how many of those passed, how many of those failed. And also some snapshots. We'll look at snapshots in a minute, what they are. But basically what they do is just validate that whatever the actual value match the expected values. Now, to do a false positive and illustrate how this would work if it failed, we're going to put here that 1 plus 2 actually is equal to 4. Obviously not. But just to illustrate that what a failure would look like, if you ran that, it paints the test as being failed, that file failed, and then it would list here all the particular tests, which ones failed and which one passed. The ones that are passed would be with a check mark. The ones that failed, paints them in red and with an X saying that something went wrong, and then it spits out the exact line of code that is offending, and that you should take a look at what actually went wrong, right? It also shows you, what the expected value was. That it was expecting that 1 plus 2 is 4, but it actually got the right answer of 3, right? And that's wrong. Jest allows us to run these kinds of tests. So let's look at now snapshot testing.